We will just continue on our sermon series where we're looking at God's common sense, and we're taking different areas of our lives and looking at the book of Proverbs and looking at how we apply that to our lives to bring about the results in our lives that God would desire by using his common sense. This morning, we're going to be looking at this topic, and it's this: achieving personal success in our lives. How do we achieve personal success? And here's the thing. Success is something we all want to define our lives. Is that not true? We all want to be able to look at our lives and say we were successful at whatever we were attempting to do. Nobody walks around going, man, I hope to be a failure. That's just not the title you want, the label you want on your life. We all want to be defined by success. Now, when most of us are young, we have multiple numbers of different jobs, but the thing about them is they're just jobs, and it's where we learn how to work. And at that time in our life, success is based strictly on earning money, okay? So like in my life, these are some of the jobs I had before I went into ministry, so that you know I actually lived a regular life at one point before I became a man of God, okay? But I remember my earliest things I did was shovel snow and rake leaves. I remember that as a little kid, probably first, second grade or whatever, going out and knocking on doors going, can I rake your leaves or can I shovel your snow? Trying to earn money back then. My second job at the age of 8, so in third grade, I started working for the Detroit News, delivering papers, as some of you know. So in third grade, I started doing my paper route and delivering papers for Detroit News. At 16, so I did that for 8 years. At 16, I worked at a place called Pet Supply Plus, and it was before you had like PetSmart in the big stores. We were like a smaller store, but it was like just all pet supplies, and I was a stockman there. So I did that for like my junior and senior year, so 2 years in high school. I was a stock boy at Pet Supply Plus, and the only live animals we actually had were fish, but we had like piranhas, so at night after everyone left, we'd like fish to the piranhas and watch them turn them up. That was the fun part. That was our bonus pay at the job, okay? Then at age 18, I worked at McDonald's for a year, so I did a year at McDonald's as a cook. So I've cooked all the different foods at McDonald's, and I still love McDonald's, so you know, and I eat there once or twice a week because it's delicious, and it's an American icon. So McDonald's, I love them. And the last place I worked before going to the ministry was Pizza Hut, and I did that for the final 4 years of college delivering pizzas. So I was a delivery driver. So those are just jobs. But at that time, the reason you were doing those was strictly for money. And if you earned a good amount of money, you felt successful at those jobs. As we age, though, what happens is we develop the ability to pursue a different path in life that will bring about personal success, which is much more fulfilling, much more significant than just earning money. But trying to define what personal success is in a one-size-fits-all type statement is very complicated. Let me tell you why it's complicated to define it. The reason for that is we all have different expectations of ourselves. We would all define success for our own lives in different ways, and God has different plans for each of us. So to make a one-size-fits-all statement of what personal success is, you can't do it in a group of, this morning, what is there, 80 of us? So 80 of us or so this morning. You just can't do that because it will look different. For instance, if you're a small business owner, what personal success to you is going to look different than someone that's a line worker. Okay? If you're a line worker, it's going to look different than someone who's a teacher. If you're a teacher, it's going to look different than someone who's a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home parent. If you're a lawyer, it's going to look different than someone who's retired. If you're retired, it's going to look different than someone who's a manager. If you're a manager, it's going to look different than if you're a bank teller. And if you're a bank teller, it's going to look different than if you're a politician. And if you're a politician, you can't get personal success. So at that point, you've hit rock bottom and you're just done. So don't even try to achieve personal success. I don't think I have politicians in here, right? Okay, good. Okay, I didn't offend you. All right, next thing. So whatever your definition of what personal success is then, what I want to do this morning is start looking at how would God advise us to be successful in reaching that place in our lives. The first thing we have to do, as always, is this. You have to understand who your enemy is. You have to understand what the roadblock is, what the thing that will stop you from personal success is before we can learn the positive things. The book of Proverbs, very clear on this. The book of Proverbs is very clear about what your enemy is to achieving personal success, and it's one easy word, and it's this word: laziness. Okay? Laziness is the number one killer of personal success in our lives. Proverbs 13:4, it reads, Lazy people want much, but they get little. But those who work hard will prosper. Okay? Laziness plays itself out in many different forms in our lives. You can look at the word laziness and go, okay, that's a very generic word. The book of Proverbs gets very specific about what laziness is, how it plays out in your lives. Let me give you 3 of the specifics it lays out. The first way laziness plays out in your life is this: you dream without actions. You're that person who dreams and always has all these goals, all these things you want to do, but you never actually take step 1 and actually do anything to implement them, and you just dream a lot but never take actions. In Proverbs 14:23, it says, work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Okay? So the first sign of laziness is you're a dreamer but never take action. There's nothing wrong with being a dreamer, but at some point you have to start taking action in your life. The second way laziness shows itself in our lives is you're always looking for shortcuts. You look for shortcuts in life. Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. You know these people. These are people who are always looking for a new scheme to get a lot of money really quick in their lives, and that's what they're always pursuing, and yet they always end up in poverty. You know those people? Okay, they're always looking for the quick thing that's going to bring about personal success, but they never find it because they're not willing to put the work in to do it. The third way that we see laziness play itself out is this: you become an excuse maker. You start making excuses for why you can't be successful in life. Proverbs 22:13, it says, a lazy person claims there's a lion out there. If I go outside, I might be killed. Let me tell you what that proverb's saying. Basically, a lazy person looks outside their window and they come up for every excuse why they don't need to leave the house. Okay? The lazy person can find any excuse to explain away why they're not being successful except for looking at themselves. And that's what that proverb is talking about, is you become an excuse maker. You start giving reasons that are just hypotheticals and aren't even true of reasons why you can't be successful. And you find a way to blame everybody else in the world and every circumstance in the world except for looking inwardly at yourself and going, maybe I'm the problem. That's another way laziness plays out in our lives. And those are all things that are roadblocks in our lives from finding personal success. And it all leads back to laziness. So, what we're going to do the rest of the morning is this: what are the keys to achieving it? How do you actually achieve personal success in your lives? And the first thing you need to understand is this: it all starts with God and it all ends with God. Starts with God, it ends with God. You cannot really achieve personal success without being involved with God in the process. And some of you might sit there and go, oh, yeah, you can. No, you can't. True personal success comes through working with God in your life, achieving the things He would have you do. Let me just give you some scriptures to talk about this point, because a lot of times I think we get caught up in a couple of these instances where we try to achieve personal success without God involved, and it's why we always feel like we're failures. Okay? Here's the proverb. Proverbs 16:3, it says, commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will what? Succeed. Commit your plans to the Lord, and your plans will succeed. So basically, work with God, and your plans will succeed. The things He leads you to, you will succeed at. Now let me take you to New Testament, a couple of scriptures. James chapter 4, here's what he writes. He says this: look here, you who say, today or tomorrow we are going to a certain town, and we will stay there for a year. We will do business there, and we will make a profit. How do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like a morning fog. It's here a little while, then it's gone. What you ought to say, and he's speaking to Christians, what you ought to say, Christians, is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you're boasting about your own pretentious plans, and all such boasting is evil. Okay? So he's speaking to Christians. He's going, Christians, some of you plan out your whole life without ever involving God in it. Get your plans of what you're going to do, what you define success being, and you totally forget God. And he goes, how do you know what tomorrow will bring? You could die today. Your life is like a fog. It's here one day and it's gone the next. You can't control the future. And he says what you ought to say is this: if the Lord wills it, if it's in accordance with what God would have, then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And he says anything outside of that is sinful. Anything outside of that is just you taking control of your life and leaving God on the sidelines. And he goes, you can't be doing that. In 1 John 2, he goes a little further and he says this, do not love this world nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. Now listen to this. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. If you look at that one scripture, that describes every pursuit that people can have, the principles of it, and that kind of the big picture. That describes every pursuit people can have without God. Right there in that. And he says, this is why you shouldn't go that route. He says, these are not from the Father, but from this world. And this world is what? Fading away. This world, everything of this world done for this world without God involved will fade away. It becomes worthless, along with everything that people crave. Then he says, but everyone who does what pleases God will live forever. Okay? So I want you to understand clearly, when you are looking for personal success, you have to start with God and it has to end with God. So God needs to be involved in the entire process. Now, if you're here this morning and you are going, well, I'm already pursuing a path in life and I never had God really involved in it. I was just kind of doing it and it's kind of what fell in my lap and I never really went to God. Here would be my encouragement to you this morning. You need to go back to God and see what he says. Okay? God doesn't always go, I'm going to change everything drastically, but God might change your perspective on things, and within the context you're already in, give you a different path that you would consider success in your life, rather than just what the world tells you is successful in your life. Okay? So I would encourage you strongly, make sure you go back and restart with God, spend time in prayer with him, spend time in studying Scripture, and sitting there and see if he speaks to you. Some of you, he might speak audibly. I don't know. But usually, when you do those things, you will get a sense from the Spirit, here's what I'm supposed to be pursuing. Here's what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. Here's what God would define as success in my life. And it looks different for each of us. So, after going to God, involving God in it, here's the next thing. At that point, we have responsibility for the personal success in our lives. At that point, it is on us because God has granted us free will. And it's a choice that we will pursue and be successful, or we won't pursue and we will fail. So I want to share with you some keys here in Proverbs that if you would follow these, basically God's going, here's my common sense, and you would find personal success if you would do these things in your life. The first one is this. You need to have a hard work ethic. Okay? Obviously, if laziness is our enemy, hard work's going to be our friend, right? When you read the book of Proverbs, it talks time and time again, and it equates laziness and hard work and puts them next to each other and goes, bad, good, bad, good. We need to understand what hard work is, though. Okay? Some people think hard work is, I work 80, 90 hours a week, and that's hard work, so I'm going to be a workaholic, and that's what God expects, and that's hard work. No, that's not necessarily hard work. Sometimes that can be dumb work. Okay? Hard work is this. In your responsibilities and the things you have been given responsibility over, when you are paid to do them or you're responsible for doing them, you do them to the best of your ability. That's what it is. Hard work is not me looking at John Matthews and going, John, how many hours a week you work? I work 60. Well, I work 70. I'm better than you. I work harder than you. Okay? That's not the key. The key is, Rick, how many hours a week you work? 6. Okay, yeah, we got that. He's recently retired. I just thought I'd plug that in there. No. How many hours of work do you work? I work 40. Okay, well, I work 45. Well, I work 40, and when I'm there, I'm doing my job. I'm not doing 25 other things. I'm not doing things I'm not supposed to be doing. When I'm there, I'm working hard. And God tells you hard work is you fulfill your responsibilities. You give it your best in the things that you are called to do and you've been given a responsibility to do. You give it your best. As a Christian, you represent Jesus in your jobs. And if you are lazy and you aren't doing the job you are called to do and getting paid to do, you represent him poorly. And as Christians, if you want personal success, you are to work hard, whatever the job is, whether you like it or not. If you've taken on the responsibility, you do it the best that you can. That's the first key. The second key is this. You need to stay focused on your path. This is key. You go to God. You get a general idea of what my purpose in life is, or what I'm supposed to be successful at, or what I'm supposed to be pursuing according to his leading, okay? From that point, what will happen is this. Distractions will enter into your life. And you will get distraction after distraction that will try to derail you from the things of God. And a couple of things here. Some of those things are your selfishness led. Some of them, I would say, come from the enemy, which would be Satan, putting roadblocks in there, trying to get you off your task, get you off your path, so that you are not personally successful in the eyes of God. So you will find the minute that you start pursuing a path that's in accordance to God's will, you will start having things that will try to knock you off your path. Proverbs 4, it says this: look straight ahead. Fix your eyes on what lies before you. Mark out a straight path for your feet, and stay on the safe path. So it says this: you know where you're supposed to go. Keep your eyes on it. Mark out a path of how you're going to get there and stay on that path. Then he warns in that same passage, it says, don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. So he brings up two things that we tend to fall into, which is one, we get sidetracked, which is we get off the focus and we get sidetracked on other things that we start doing. And let me tell you the key of keeping your eyes straight forward. What it allows you to do in your life is this: when you get sidetracked, it's not usually for bad stuff. Usually you get sidetracked because you see some good opportunities, you see some good things, and you go for them. When you know where God wants you to go and you keep your eyes on it, what happens is it gives you the ability to look at the good things and say no, but look at the best things and say yes. Okay? You will always have opportunity after opportunity to do some good things, but the best things are far and few between, and you need to make sure you hit those when they're presented to you. But if you're always saying yes to the good things, you will get sidetracked and you will never be able to stay on your path of where you need to be going in reference to where God wants you to go. Okay? So when you allow yourself not to get distracted, you allow yourself to say no to the good and yes to the best, and that's a good thing in your life, and it's a hugely important thing of finding personal success. The other thing he says in here is this: don't let your feet from following evil. So next thing he says, don't let your feet follow evil. Some of you are past that point in your life. The reasons you get sidetracked are not because you're following evil stuff, but some of you in here still are at that point, where you're not having to worry about saying no to the good and yes to the best. You're going, I got to say no to the bad, the evil that keeps trying to sidetrack me in my life. And if you're in that place, again, this is where you have to build your relationship with God and find a sure footing with your relationship with God. And he starts to give you the ability to look at the bad things and go, no, I'm not going to participate in that evil anymore, because that's going to sidetrack me from finding the success God wants me to have in my life. Okay? Third key of finding personal success: you got to have integrity for God and people. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Proverbs 12:19, it says, truthful words stand the test of time, but lies are soon exposed. Here's what I want to ask you real quick, and I need you to look around as we ask this one. Those of you that are a little bit older, you've lived in life for quite a while, have you found this statement generally to be true in a great majority of times, which is eventually truth stands the test of time, but eventually lies are exposed? Have you noticed that in your life? Raise your hand. Look around so you can see how many people. Okay. Most everyone here that's been in career job and been living for a while, that has, you notice this, which is even lies you think people are getting away with eventually come back to get them. You just see it time and time again. And sometimes you sit there and go, how are they getting away with it? And you think they're getting away with it, and then like a year and a half later, it comes crashing down on them, and you go, they didn't really get away with it. Everything just crashed. Your best avenue, if you want to find personal success in your life, is have integrity before God and people, which is you tell the truth whether it's pretty or it's not. Okay? There are times, if you do something stupid and you mess something up, your best route isn't to lie to cover it up. Your best route is to admit, yeah, I did this and it's not good, but this is what I did. It might not be how you wanted it to go, but it is what I did, and I apologize. And it might not have been the best choice, but it is what I did. That is your best route than going, no, I didn't do that. Because eventually things always get exposed. The reason I bring Rick up, me and Rick have this thing, and Rick's mentioned it before, but it's a point we both remember, because this truth gets expressed, which is, we had a thing years ago, probably 5-6 years ago, where someone accused me of lying. I will say, in the instance I had, I didn't do it the way Rick would have wanted me to do it, or even some of the other elders wanted me to do the situation. But when I was confronted, I was perfectly honest. And I said, this is exactly how I said it. And I know that's not necessarily your cup of tea, but that's exactly what happened. And what happened is I went back, checked truth, and found out, yeah, that's exactly what he said, and things worked out. I can guarantee you this: if I had lied to make that situation a little more comfortable, would I still be employed here? No, I wouldn't be. I'd be gone because I'd be a liar. Okay? The one thing you know with me, if you attend here or whatever, and you've been around, you've been in our leadership, whether you like it or not, I don't usually lie. Can't say I never lie because I can't make that statement across the board. I'm not telling you to think that I'm lying. I'm just saying I'm trying to think, but no. We lie in subtle ways from time. That's why I'm saying that, is people can lie in even subtle ways. But in general, you know I'm in a can of worms now. Let's just leave it here. Have integrity before people and God. If you know me, what I tell you is the truth, whether you like it or not. I will tell you the truth because I know this to be very true. And sometimes taking a little pain up front is worth preventing a lot of pain down on the backside of things. So be truthful. You will find personal success. Number 4 is this: hang with the right people. It's important who you hang out with. Younger kids and teens that are here this morning, you need to really learn this one. Who you hang out with is hugely significant if you achieve personal success in your life. Proverbs 13:20, it says this: walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Okay? All of us, when we were younger, wish we would have taken that one a little bit more and applied it to our lives, because we all hung out with people who were fools at times and got ourselves in trouble. But basically what this is saying, even to adults, teens, everybody here, you need to make sure you're hanging out with the right people. Hang out with wise people. Hang out with people who you look at and go, those are successful people in God's eyes. Have those people as friends. Be around them. Spend time with them, because that stuff will influence your life for a positive. Do not be around the fool. Do not hang out with the lazy person at work. Don't make them your friends. Don't hang out with the goofball who just sits around and lets everybody else work just because he's fun to be around. Don't hang out with the fool. It will never work out well for you. And that's would be one of the pieces of advice. In the Proverbs 13:18, it says this: and if you ignore criticism, you will end in poverty and disgrace. If you accept correction, you will be honored. So the other side of this is have people around you who are confident enough to tell you things you don't want to hear. Okay? And when they tell you that, be okay with that and learn from it, because they're wise people. You do not want a bunch of yes people around you who just encourage you in your own behavior the way you are and never want you to change and become better. You want to have people that can speak truth into your life, and you need to be receptive to it. People who are not successful are the people that hear criticism from good people and ignore it. Just go, you don't know what you're talking about. I know. And you're going, how could you ignore that person's advice? They know a lot more than you. Even if you didn't want to hear it, it's probably good advice that you need to apply to your life. Okay? So he talked about hang with the right people. People that are wise and people that will confront you at times and listen to their counsel. That will help you be personally successful. And the last thing is this: never stop learning. Never stop learning. One of the things about Americans, they say, is I think it's like 85% of Americans, once they graduate high school or college, never read another book the rest of their lives. Never read a full book to get educated. They might read like nonfiction or fiction, but they don't read nonfiction books to keep learning. So one of the things I would tell you, and what Proverbs talks about, is never stop learning. Proverbs 15:14 says, a wise person is hungry for what? Knowledge. Okay? While the fool feeds on trash. You want to be personally successful. Continue to learn. Don't stop learning. Whatever field you're in, whatever you're doing, if you're a stay-at-home parent, read some books on how to be a good parent. If you are working in your own small business, read books on running a small business. If you're someone that's a teacher, read books on learning to teach better. Whatever it is you are doing, continue to learn so you can get better at it. Do not sit around and don't waste time gaining new knowledge and just feed on trash. Here's the easiest way to tell you what feeding on trash is. Don't get all of your knowledge from Facebook. I know. Okay? Don't get all of your learning and knowledge from Facebook or whatever social media sites you get on that just run stories and worthless stuff. Not saying it's all bad. I read some of it from time to time. But if that's what your entire content of information coming into your life is, you are this guy here that says, while fools feed on trash. You're not getting useful information to become wiser. You're not gaining knowledge. You're just reading trash. You're reading tabloids. You're watching Jerry Springer at 2:00 in the afternoon or whatever. Or when I was sick, there's like 5 or 6 court shows that run in a row, and it's just people in court doing their different things. That's trash. Is it all bad? No, but you're not gaining knowledge. You're not doing things that will benefit you. All right? What's that? Uh-oh, Francis, what? Learning how to win. Is that one of the shows on TV or what? Oh, so you learn if you're going to do bad things, how to win in court when you go. Okay, in Francis's case, that might be beneficial. Okay, I approve that. I say go for it, Francis. Here's the thing, though. If you would follow those keys in your life, what you will find is you will achieve personal success in whatever it is that God has called you to do. If you would just apply those things. Some of those things that you see up on the screen right now, you might have 3 or 4 of those that you go, I don't struggle with those at all. That's great. Find the 2 that you struggle with and start working on them. Okay? You might look up there and go, I only have 1 of those I'm good at. Pick 1 more and start working on that one, because sometimes working on all of them is overwhelming. But I would tell you the first thing, which is starts and ends with God, if you haven't done that, get there first, because everything else is worthless to even work on. Because you can't achieve personal success if you aren't doing it with God. But here's the last thing. There will be days, there will be weeks, there will be months where you feel like you want to be lazy and you don't want to give it your best at whatever God has called you to do. There will be times where you want to throw up your hands and just go, I just give up. I'm wiped out. I'm done. I don't want to go anymore. You will feel at times that you're being treated unfairly at work and your boss has it out for you, your manager's horrible or whatever, and you will feel you're being treated unfairly. And there will be times where you feel like you just can't win. No matter what you do, you can't win in this area that you have responsibility. And in those moments, I would tell you to remember what Paul said. And this was Paul's mindset. He says this, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. What I want you to remember is when you start with God and when you end with God, then you are really working for who? God. Right? So when you feel like being lazy, when you feel like giving up, when you feel like success is not attainable, what I would tell you is this, you remember you're not working for, not looking to please. You're looking to please God and you are working with Him. So when your manager stinks or your boss stinks, you remember I'm not working for them, I'm working for God. When your children at home are terrible and you feel like giving up and feel like you're a total failure as a parent, those are the times you need to look and go, I'm not looking just to get the performance I want out of that child. I'm working for God and I'm doing the best I can for God, not just for that kid. Whatever it is you do, you realize you're not working for people, you're working for God. And when you do that and you've already put it in His hands, personal success will follow.